This red bowl has magical powers. Rice served and it never runs out. The woman's husband grew curious. Why had the rice at home never decreased? Only then did the woman reveal the truth. Some time ago, while she was in the mountains gathering wild vegetables, she accidentally discovered a large mansion. It suddenly began to rain, so she decided to step inside to take shelter. Strangely enough, even though there wasn't a single person in sight, a fire was burning in the stove, and the table was covered with delicious dishes. Although she hadn't eaten all day and was starving, she didn't touch any of the food. She simply turned around and left. Later, she found this red bowl. Even though she didn't know where it came from, she did know one thing: this red bowl was exactly like the ones in that mansion. Ever since she brought it home, their life had grown more and more prosperous. Eventually, they even became the wealthiest family in the village. That mansion was the legendary Lost House. They say it has a life of its own. It warmly welcomes every person who has nowhere else to go. And the house where Grandma Kiwa and the two girls are now living is that very same Lost House. From the moment Yui moved in, strange things began to happen. When Kiwa wanted to make tea, the gas stove beside her would light itself. When Yui casually said she was thirsty, a glass filled with water would appear on the table out of nowhere. Kiwa explained that this house warmly cares for everyone who has lost their way. It even lays out fresh bedding for newcomers ahead of time. It also prepares bathwater. Everything it does now is for Yui's own good. Those words brought back painful memories for Yui. Overwhelmed by emotion, she knocked the glass of water off the table. Then she grabbed the younger girl behind her and ran. It was as if she were trying to escape those terrifying memories. The truth was, Kiwa wasn't really their grandmother. The three of them weren't related by blood at all. Just a few days earlier, a massive earthquake had struck the town. 17-year-old Yui had been at a shrine in the hills behind town when she saw a little girl named Hyori trying to move a fallen tree trunk off a stone statue. Yui handed her umbrella to Hyori. Then she helped her move the trunk away. She asked Hyori her name, but Hyori didn't answer. Yui assumed the girl simply didn't want to tell her, so she turned and walked away. Soon after, a staff member at the relief center told Yui the truth. Hyori had a tragic past. Not long ago, her parents had both died in a car accident. She was later taken in by relatives, but then the earthquake struck. The relatives who had adopted her lost their lives in the disaster. At only 8 years old, after losing her family twice, Hyori had stopped speaking entirely. Yui realized she had misunderstood her. She wanted to apologize. Just then, an elderly woman named Kiwa appeared. She introduced herself as Yui and Hyori's grandmother. With nowhere else to go, and no other options, Yui followed Kiwa, but she remained wary of her. Even at night, she kept a sickle under her pillow. After they began living together, Kiwa took great care of them. Every day, she prepared warm, delicious meals. Gradually, Yui began to let her guard down, until Kiwa said that everything the Lost House did was for Yui's own good. Those words dragged Yui back into her painful past. After her mother left home, her father poured all his anger onto Yui. He even said that it was because of her that his wife had left. Unable to endure it any longer, Yui chose to run away. Lost in those memories, Yui pulled Hyori along and kept running. Only when Hyori fell did Yui finally snap back to reality. Kiwa soon found them. She didn't scold Yui. She simply asked them to come back with her. Yui said nothing, but Hyori reached out first, took Yui's hand, and led her back to the Lost House. It was in that moment that Yui finally believed this house truly had a will of its own. As the town slowly rebuilt itself, it was time for Hyori to start school. Yui gave her a notebook. She told her that if there was anything she wanted to say, she could write it down inside. After seeing Hyori off, Yui prepared to find a part-time job in town. After school, a girl from Hyori's class invited her over to watch a rehearsal of the fox dance. But as soon as the music began to play, Hyori couldn't stop herself from recalling the moment her parents died. She covered her ears and ran away in a panic. Kiwa noticed something was wrong, but instead of offering comfort, she slowly began explaining the origin of the fox dance. It was a traditional Kagura performance passed down in the town. Children would wear fox masks and hold demon-slaying swords as they danced. Yui found it strange. The town was clearly by the sea. Why didn't they worship a sea god? Why a fox instead? So Grandma gently began to tell the story behind it. Long ago, a sea serpent monster appeared in these waters. It wreaked havoc on the nearby villages. Anyone who looked directly into the serpent's eyes would fall into terrifying hallucinations and lose their sanity. The fishermen who relied on the sea no longer dared to sail out, until one night, 3 foxes suddenly appeared at the village chief's door, carrying a dagger in their mouths. The dagger had the power to slay demons, and the fox dance itself could weaken evil spirits. As long as the dagger was thrust into the serpent's eye, it could be killed. In the end, with the cooperation of the villagers, the sea serpent was finally sealed away. From that day on, the fox dance was passed down through generations, and this cape became known as Kitsune Cape. As she listened to the story, Hyori gradually calmed down. She wrote in her notebook that she had run away during the fox dance rehearsal because it reminded her too much of her parents' funeral. At such a young age, Hyori had already endured the sudden loss of both parents. The impact on her was unimaginable. Just then, a woman from town brought over a kitten. Grandma named it Kafuku. With Kafuku by her side, Hyori slowly became happier. Recently, many strange things had begun happening in town. A flower would grow on people's backs. Then a strange serpent would appear and swallow the flower. Within moments, the serpent's body would swell several times its size. The more flowers it consumed, the larger it grew. Soon after, the serpents would slip into the sea, merging together into one enormous serpent demon. One day, while Yui and Hyori were walking home, they were suddenly attacked by 2 of the strange serpents. Just as danger closed in, 2 lions leapt down from above and drove the serpents away. It turned out the lions were helpers called by Kiwa. Their true forms were the stone guardian statues at the shrine in the hills. Yui told Kiwa about all the strange things happening in town. Kiwa wasn't surprised at all, because days earlier, she had already sensed something was wrong. Early the next morning, Hyori was awakened by voices outside the yard. She quietly went to look and saw 6 Kappas standing in the courtyard. Hyori felt scared and hid timidly behind Kiwa. Kiwa explained that the Kappa were her friends. They had come to help. Soon after, they headed to the edge of the cliff. Kiwa pointed to the shrine that had been destroyed by floodwaters. She suspected that whatever had been sealed inside the 4th cave had escaped, so she asked the Kappa to dive underwater and investigate. After the Kappa left, Kiwa brought Hyori back home first. When Yui woke up, she found a pile of cucumbers in the kitchen. Kiwa said the guests arriving later were Kappa, and cucumbers were their favorite food. Yui didn't believe her. She assumed Kiwa was joking, until she saw several Kappa bathing in the yard. Only then did she believe Kiwa's words. Kiwa carefully prepared all kinds of cucumber dishes to thank the Kappa for their help. At that moment, the old Kappa sitting nearby spoke up. The thing that had been sealed inside the cave had already escaped. Yui watched Kiwa chatting so naturally with the Kappa, and she began to grow curious about who Kiwa really was. However, Kiwa didn't directly answer Yui's question. Instead, she began to explain the origins of these mysterious beings. She called these creatures, who could communicate with humans, wondrous ones. Among humans, only a very small number of people possess the ability to speak with them. Clearly, Yui and Hyori were among that rare few. As for the strange serpents that had attacked them before, they were merely avatars of the sea serpent monster Kiwa had once mentioned in her story. Because the sea serpent had a pair of crimson eyes, people called it the Red Spirit. Anyone who dared to look directly into its eyes would fall into terrifying illusions and become hopelessly trapped within them. The Red Spirit fed on the negative emotions buried deep inside people's hearts, growing stronger and stronger with every sorrow and resentment it consumed, until eventually, it would drive everyone away and claim the land for itself. Hundreds of years ago, the Red Spirit had been sealed away by the villagers of that time, but after an earthquake struck, the barrier that once imprisoned it was damaged, and the Red Spirit seized the opportunity to escape. All the strange events happening in town lately were its doing. Just then, the 2 lions resting nearby suddenly leapt onto the roof. Moments later, dozens of meteors fell from the sky, scattering across different corners of the town. Seeing this, Kiwa let out a deep sigh. Then she brought Yui and Hyori with her into town. It turned out those falling meteors were guardian deities from shrines across the land. They had sensed the disturbance in this town and had come to offer their help, which meant the danger was already close at hand. As the Red Spirit's power continued to grow, more and more people began to unknowingly give in to negative emotions. Even Yui was not spared. One day, as usual, she went to work at the supermarket, but there, she saw her father. In that instant, all those painful memories came flooding back. She couldn't bring herself to face him, so she turned and ran. But in truth, What Yui saw wasn't her father at all. It was merely an illusion created by the red spirit. Yui returned to the lost house in a daze. Grandma gently asked what had happened. Yui told them everything she had experienced. After hearing her story, Hyori pressed herself tightly against Yui's side. Grandma softly stroked her cheek and comforted her. Soon after, Kiwa decided to take them to the neighboring town. They chose to travel by water. With the constant help of the Kappa, they quickly arrived at the lost house within the Six Gods stone shrine. It turned out that the lost house wasn't just a single place. It wandered through the mountains and forests, offering shelter to those who had nowhere else to go. And the lost house at Six Gods stone shrine was the oldest of them all. When Yui saw the scene in the courtyard, she was stunned. Countless yokai had already gathered there, and they were all old friends of Grandma's. They had come to help Kiwa defeat the red spirit. After the yokai departed, Grandma decided to stay there for a while with Yui and Hyori, though there was no shortage of food or comfort there, and the house was larger and far more luxurious. The two girls still preferred the lost house at Kitsun Cape, because only there did they truly feel at home. That night, Kiwa quietly slid open the door. Two foxes swiftly approached. One of them carried a demon-slaying blade in its mouth. After placing it in Kiwa's hands, they turned and disappeared into the darkness. Kiwa was lost in thought for a long time. The truth was, her real reason for coming here was to entrust Yui and Hyori to the lost house, because she intended to face the red spirit alone. Early the next morning, Yui realized Kiwa was gone. In that moment, Yui finally understood Grandma's true intention. They wanted to find Kiwa, but the lost house refused to let them leave. Yui insisted firmly that they were a family, and she would find Kiwa no matter what. After her repeated pleas, the lost house finally opened its doors. By then, Kiwa had already found the red spirit with the demon-slaying blade in hand. With a furious roar that shook the heavens, the red spirit released waves of dark energy in every direction. The sky twisted into unnatural shapes. As its power swelled higher and higher, Kiwa made a split-second decision. She charged forward with the blade raised high, and plunged it into the red spirit's body. But instead of striking a fatal blow, it only enraged the monster further. Kiwa was hurled violently into the air. At the same time, Yui and Hyori rushed back to town, but once again, Yui saw her father. He was as violent and furious as ever, grabbing her arm and trying to drag her away. Hyori tried to stop him, but was shoved aside. As the two figures moved farther and farther away, Hyori couldn't help but remember everything they had been through together. From their first meeting to the days they chose to stay by each other's side, they had shared so many warm and beautiful moments. They had met so many kind and gentle people. They weren't related by blood, yet they were closer than many real families. Hyori had once lost her parents and her home, but now, she didn't want to lose Grandma and her sister too. At that very moment, Hyori finally overcame the knot that had bound her heart for so long, and at last, she found her voice. She cried out, begging her sister not to leave. That single word, sister, gave Yui the courage to stand up against her father. In her heart, Grandma and Hyori were her true family. As an enormous eye formed in the sky, more and more townspeople sank into despair. The red spirit grew even stronger. The demon-slaying blade had shattered. Kiwa was wounded. This town had accumulated far too much sorrow. She could no longer stop the red spirit alone. Just then, countless streaks of light illuminated the sky. It was her yokai friends and the guardian deities. They had come to support the town. The red spirit unleashed bolts of lightning, setting the forest ablaze to distract them. Just when everyone seemed out of options, Hyori suddenly remembered what Grandma had once said. The fox dance could weaken the red spirit's power. She took out her flute and slowly began to play the melody of the dance. The red spirit called down countless bolts of lightning toward her. Fortunately, Kiwa and the guardian deities quickly raised a barrier to protect Hyori. As the sound of the flute echoed on, the dark clouds in the sky began to disperse. Seizing the moment, Yui rode one of the lions into the sky. She drew her bow and aimed straight at the red spirit's eye. In the end, they successfully sealed the red spirit once again. Before long, the town returned to its former peace, and the people forgot everything about the red spirit. The 3 generations returned to the lost house, and Hyori decided to inherit Grandma's role, continuing to protect the lost house. They had once been strangers with no connection, and each of them had carried painful memories. Yet through staying by each other's side, they slowly stepped out from the shadows of their past and found the courage to begin again. Perhaps that was the true reason Yui and Hyori were able to defeat the red spirit so calmly. Some things may appear terrifying beyond measure, but if we gather the courage to face them, we may find they were never as invincible as we believed.